My works are about the glory of landscape and maps, and an interest in talking about how some of the personal visions and philosophies and ideas coincide with talking about real places, or at least shared environments, and in both real and made-up places. I think London was so interesting when I was a little kid, and we got the back end of it in the 90s, early 90s, when we started to go out. And so much of London had this kind of clandestine nature. A lot of underground parties. There were still lots of spaces, especially around the Zone 2 ring in London, for people to set up things. The London Transport Museum came to me last year in 2010, showing me a couple of decorative maps from like MacDonald Gill and Harry Beck, for example. And they asked me whether I'd like to do a piece that related to those things. And first of all, with the Lost Rivers, that was where I really wanted to go down. And then of course, the underground, with it being London Transport. And then suddenly a whole idea came up to produce a map that talked about the subterranean parts of London. You know, it's like, it's a new space to be discovered in a way. But it's so also linked to the authority. You know, everything in London, what goes under the surface, has to be contracted, you know. I mean, there's the great story about well, he's a bit of a nutter apparently, but the mole man of de Beauvoir town, who started a tunnel under his corner house in de Beauvoir town, through his cellar, where he kept his wine and things. I mean, rumours have it that they ended up, after finding out, because some of the pavement surrounding it had started to collapse. And it's a mixture of words, epithets and kind of phrases and pinpointing of hard facts, as well as some of the fiction also, or the folklores that are attached to certain areas. I don't talk too much about the depth. It's about getting a kind of a two-dimensional drawing that implies a few things with some drawing, but mainly it's half that and half a diagram of showing the hard facts of where these things are, or that lay in the ground from a bird's-eye view. The first book that I actually got into researching for this project was Anthony Clayton's book on London folklore, because I wanted that to be a part of some of the references that I put down, which were references to things that are kind of bubble just under the surface of like local communities, if you like, or, you know, general understandings and folklores and of certain places, right? But the more and more that I tried to do research, first of all, I wanted the London Underground lines accurately mapped actually to where they go under the streets, even though not much surface information is actually shown. But, you know, some things are. You know, the underground stations, or say like the train stations, both overground and underground, are mentioned, but only the underground stations are named. Because you need to know where some of the mainline rail lanes are, because they always tend to go through a little section of tunnel. And so these things are highlighted. So a lot of the adventure actually just came in getting the information, especially, you know, stroking the back of the authorities to just see what they could give me. And that became an adventure in itself. I think there's something that I'm really getting interested in, is not only the kind of system of treating information and research-based work, but I've been thinking recently about the entropy of what some of my work touches on, like the systems of repetition, and of course where some of the hard facts go into fiction, and whether that's a kind of dilapidation of this system that kind of guides my work, that's kind of research based, and then I illustrate it. At Abbey Mills, they've got this great map there of some of the old sewers that are still the main part of the network. But you know, the new super sewer, the Thames tunnels in there, and the water ring main, that's really tough actually, because Thames Water are very, very secretive about giving information out to the public about where the fresh water comes from for security reasons. But you know, I've got that in. Some things are fact, some things are made up. You know, I've only got a certain amount of time. But some of the well-known ley lines are also involved. Some of the old deep level shelters that were built along the Northern Line, other bunkers in suburban areas, governmental tunnels, deep line tunnels that Duncan Campbell broke into in 1980. I've got loads about the burial sites of London, some that, all the ones that exist now, most of the Magnificent Seven, but you know, like also some of them that aren't there anymore or built over. So you know, there's always a reference in Subterranea about death. I mean, it's just got so much to it. I haven't put a lot of the geological information into it. I just think, you know, certain amount of time, certain restrictions, you know, any of those sorts of things is really tough. But you know, I mentioned that, you know, maybe like 150,000 years ago, or 70,000 years ago, sorry, you know, London was like a tundra just after the Ice Age, you know. Very few humans, mostly to the west. So I show the burial mounds that are known in Greenwich and Hampstead, because I really love, you know, I love that sense of old. It's just a fascinating thing, linked to reality, and so much myth and storytelling comes from what's underground, when most of it is made up and mistaken for what things are mostly utilitarian. Even the lost rivers that are now in pipes under our streets. Yeah, this project has taken, kind of roughly speaking, full time pretty much on it. It's about 7 months. But I have gone down into the underground on a few official and unofficial visits. Enough said on that one. Just to get an experimental, you know, like an experience that I can emotionally, you know, think about from when I'm down there, that will influence the appearance of the piece. So, you know, the first few months were just reading really, and that's carried on all through the 6 months of drawing. I didn't just want it to be central London. I mean, I kind of, my relationship with London is skirting all over the shop anyway, and not always that much in the centre itself. So, you know, it goes from kind of like Stratford to Wormwood Scrubs, Highgate, which has got a lot of old seated legends about the underground there, all the way to just south of Clapham Common. And that allows me to get in the paddock up in Willesden area, Cricklewood, Willesden, that was basically the cabinet room number 2, built kind of in the World War. Anyway, these are pinpointed, but it allows me to also get in the whole transport system, and it adds that level of chaos. And also, not that I get so tied down in specific details of, say, Roman and Anglo-Saxon London. You know, those are the things I've had to cut off. I mean, the fascinating history about the post-Roman Londinium being a walled ruin for, they think up to like 400 or 500 years, but until the Danish kept on attacking London with their armies and ships, sometimes being paid off up the River Lee and Hackney, you know, to put their boats up there. This piece just aims to be a, well, I don't know, I mean, like, a talisman, that's a big word, but I mean it's good for describing what perhaps this is. It's just a tool for people to look at to increase their motivation to find out more about what's underneath.